your code. Dial *770# today.
Oh my god. I can't believe I lost my cards. Once again. Oh no.
Relax. There's a solution to every problem. If you've lost your card, you can request another one. But first, you need to block your old card. Simply dial *770*911# to block your card. Know your code. Dial *770# today.
Her appointment was approved by the Central Bank of Nigeria with effect from February 3, 2023. She brings to the board robust, multifunctional, and cross-border banking experience from leading financial institutions. Mrs. Pamela Shodikbo will be presented for election at this meeting. I will now introduce the Board of Directors and Company Secretary. Please note that their pictures will be displayed on the screen as they are introduced. One, Mustafa Chikeobi, Chairman, Board of Directors. Two, Mrs. Nneka Onyali Ikwe.
Just 1 second, please. Okay, the picture is there now.
Managing Director, CEO, and Amazon of the banking industry. Three, Mr. Chidi Agbapu, Non-Executive Director. Four, Alhaji Issa Inua, Independent Non-Executive Director. Five, Engineer Henry Obi, Independent Non-Executive Director. Mrs. Amaka Onwogalo, Non-Executive Director. Chief Nelson Nweke, Non-Executive Director. Mr. Chinedu Okeke, Non-Executive Director. Mrs. Ronke Bameke, Independent Non-Executive Director. Mr. Hassan Imam, Executive Director, North Directorate. Mr. Ken Ugwoke, Executive Director and Chief Risk Officer. Dr. Ken Opara, Executive Director, Lagos and Southwest Directorate. Mr. Stanley Amuchie, Executive Director, Chief Operations and Information Officer. Mrs. Pamela Shodikbo, Executive Director, South Directorate. Finally, Mrs. Ezinwa Unioboje, Company Secretary. A detailed profile of all the directors can be seen at pages 32 to 39 of the annual report. I would like to acknowledge the presence of the representatives of our regulators who are present at this meeting. One, Central Bank of Nigeria.
Let's continue.
Two, the Nigerian Exchange, is it Nigerian Exchange Group? That's their new name.
Yes.
Represented by Mrs. Brenda Duke. Continue. Securities and Exchange Commission. Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria. And finally, the Nigerian Deposit Insurance Corporation, represented by Mr. Abbas Aliyu Abbas. Continue. I would also like to recognize the representatives of our external auditors, Deloitte and Touche, represented by Mr. Michael Daudu and Mrs. Yetunde Odetayo. The registrar, First Registrars and Investor Services Limited, represented by Mr. Yaya Lawal. The independent external consultants on the annual board appraisal, KPMG Advisory Services, represented by Mr. Olumide Olayinka. Permit me also to introduce the Statutory Audit Committee. Chief Frank Ong, Chairman, Statutory Audit Committee and Shareholder.
Okay. Continue.
Dr. Christian Winia, Shareholder. Mr. Innocent Moore, Shareholder. Chief Nelson Nweke, C. Nweke, Non-Executive Director. and Mrs. Ronke Bameke, Independent Non-Executive Director. Having completed the preliminary matters, we will now proceed to the formal business of the day by calling on the Company Secretary to read the notice of the 35th Annual General Meeting.
Thank you, Chairman.
So I haven't done. I wish to inform you that the Register of Directors Holdings and other statutory registrars are available for inspection in compliance with Section 301 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act. Oh, you're supposed to. I'm sorry, I jumped.
Okay.
Please read the notice.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, esteemed shareholders. Notice of 35th Annual General Meeting. Notice is hereby given that the 35th Annual General Meeting of members of Fidelity Bank PLC will hold virtually via https://www.fidelitybank.ng/agm/ at 10 a.m. on Tuesday, May 23, 2023, to transact the following business. Ordinary business. To lay before the members the audited financial statements for the year ended December 31, 2022, and the reports of the directors, external auditors, and audit committee thereon. 2, to declare a dividend, a final dividend. 3, to elect the following director who was appointed since the last annual general meeting, Mrs. Pamela Shodipo, Executive Director. 4, to re-elect the following directors retiring by rotation, Mrs. Amaka Onwuhalu, Non-Executive Director, and Chief Nelson Singweke, Non-Executive Director. 5, to authorize the directors to fix the remuneration of the external auditors for 2023. 6, to disclose the remuneration of the managers of the company. 7, to elect members of the Statutory Audit Committee. Dated the 28th day of April 2023, by order of the Board. I crave your indulgence to draw your attention to the notes to the notice. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I wish to inform you again that the Register of Directors Holdings and other statutory registers are available for inspection in compliance with Section 301 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020. Next statement. Okay. I now draw your attention to the Chairman's statement, which is contained on pages 19 to 20 of the 2022 Annual Report and Accounts. I crave your indulgence to waive the reading of the report, which was earlier circulated to shareholders along with the annual report. However, please permit me to make a few comments on your bank's performance in 2022, which was a remarkable year for us. When we set the audacious target of attaining Tier 1 status a few years ago, we did not expect a smooth ride due to the endemic challenges in our operating environment. However, we were able to weather the storm because our business is built on the foundation of good corporate governance, effective risk management, and shareholders' value enhancement. We are beginning to see the result of countless hours of planning and uncompromising commitment to the disciplined execution of our strategy. And we recorded double-digit growth on all major indices. Our performance in 2022 also marked a significant milestone in the history of your company, because for the first time in 35 years of operation, we crossed the 50 billion mark in pre-tax profits. We are very pleased with the market's reaction to our performance, as evidenced by over 70% appreciation in our share price during the review period. However, this performance would not have been possible without your support. On behalf of the board, management, and staff of Fidelity Bank, I thank all our esteemed customers, shareholders, and stakeholders for the loyalty and support we have enjoyed over the years. My special gratitude goes to our executive management team, led by our indefatigable MD CEO, Mrs. Nneka Onyali-Ekpe, as well as our staff for their hard work and unwavering dedication. Finally, I would also like to thank my colleagues on the board not only for crafting an audacious growth strategy for the bank, but also for their resolute commitment to disciplined execution. We are pleased with our performance trajectory. I assure you that in the coming months, we will continue to drive our growth strategy and optimize performance in all areas of our business. We're just starting. Thank you for your kind consideration. The Managing Director's report and the report of the directors are on pages 25 to 27 and 42 to 53, respectively, of the annual report and accounts. External auditors, audit committee, and independent board appraisal consultants for the financial year ended 31/2022. I will now call on the representative of the auditors, Deloitte and Touche, to present the auditor's report for the financial year ended December 31, 2022.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Once again, good morning, and good morning, distinguished shareholders. The auditor's report is found on pages 130 to 135, and I'll crave your indulgence to take the first two paragraphs and the last paragraph. Independent auditors report to members of Fidelity Bank PLC. We have audited the financial statement of Fidelity Bank PLC set out on pages 138 to 281, which comprise the statement of the financial position as of 31st December 2022, the statement of profit or loss and other comprehensive income, the statement of changes in equity, statement of cash flows for the year ended, and notes to the financial statements, including the summary of significant accounting policies. In our opinion, the financial statements give a true and fair view of the financial position of Fidelity Bank as of 31st December 2022, its financial performance and cash flows for the year that ended in accordance with International Financial Reporting Standards, the provisions of the Company and Allied Matters Act 2020, the Banks and Other Financial Institutions Act 2020, the Financial Reporting Council Act number 6, 2011, and relevant Central Bank of Nigeria guidelines and circulars. Basis for our opinion. We conducted our audit in accordance with international standards on auditing. Our responsibility under those standards are further described in the auditor's responsibility of the audit of the financial statements section of our reports. We are independent of the bank in accordance with the International Ethics Standards Board for Accountants, the International Code of Ethics for Professional Accountants, including International Independent Standards, together with other ethical requirements that are relevant to our audit of the financial statements in Nigeria. We have fulfilled our other ethical responsibility in accordance with the Iceberg Code and in accordance with other ethical requirements that are relevant to our audit of the financial statements in Nigeria. We believe that the audit evidence we have obtained is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for our opinion. The last paragraph is on page 135, reports on other legal and regulatory requirements. In accordance with the requirements of the 5th schedule of the Company and Allied Matters Act 2020, we confirm that 1, we have obtained all the information and explanation which to the best of our knowledge and belief were necessary for the purpose of our audit. 2, in our opinion, proper books of accounts have been kept by the bank in so as it appears from our examination of those books. 3, the bank statement of financial position and statement of profit or loss and other comprehensive income are in agreement with the books of accounts. Details of insider-related credits are disclosed in Note 38 to the financial statement in accordance with Central Banks of Nigeria Circular BSD/1/2004. The bank contravened certain sections of the Banks and Other Financial Institutions Act, BUFIA 2020, and the Central Bank of Nigeria circulars and guidelines. The related penalties are disclosed in notes 41.1 to the annual financial statement in accordance with Central Bank of Nigeria circular and guidelines. This report is signed by Yetino Odetayo on behalf of Deloitte and Touch and dated 25th of April 2023. Thank you, sirs.
Very much. I will go to the in line with the provision of the Central Bank's Nigeria Code of Corporate Governance for banks and discount houses in Nigeria, which stipulates that an independent board appraisal exercise should be conducted in each financial year, and the report of the appraisal should be presented at the annual general meeting. KPMG Advisory Services was appointed to conduct the board appraisal for the year ended December 31, 2022. I will now please call on the representative of KPMG, Mr. Olumide Olayinka, to present the board appraisal report for the 2022 financial year, which is on page 126 of the annual report and accounts. Mr. Olayinka.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The report of the independent consultant on the appraisal of the Board of Directors of Fidelity Bank to the members can be found on page 126 of the annual financial statements. I hereby read, in compliance with the guidelines of section 2.8.3 of the Central Bank of Nigeria's revised Code of Corporate Governance for banks in Nigeria post-consolidation, the CBN Code, and section 14.1 of the Nigerian Code of Corporate Governance 2018, the NCCG Code, Fidelity Bank PLC engaged KPMG Advisory Services to carry out an appraisal of the Board of Directors for the year ended 31st December 2022. The CBN Code mandates an annual appraisal of the board with specific focus on the board's structure and composition, responsibilities, processes, and relationships, individual directors' competencies, and respective roles in the performance of the board. We have performed the procedures agreed with Fidelity Bank in respect of the appraisal of the board in accordance with the provisions of the codes. These procedures, which are limited in the scope but sufficient for the board's objective in line with the codes, are different in scope from an external audit. Consequently, no opinion is expressed by us on the activities reported upon. Our approach to the appraisal of the board involved a review of the bank's board papers and minutes, key corporate governance structures, policies, and practices, as well as compliance with applicable codes of corporate governance. This includes the review of the corporate governance framework and representations obtained from questionnaires, one-on-one interviews with the members of the board and senior management. Based on our review, except as noted below, the bank's corporate governance practices are largely in compliance with the key provisions of the codes. Specific recommendations for further improving the board's governance practices are included in our detailed report to the board. This includes recommendations in the following key areas: succession planning and directors training. This report of the independent consultant on the appraisal of the Board of Directors of Fidelity Bank PLC was signed by Mr. Olumide Olayinka, partner KPMG Advisory Services, on the 28th April 2023. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Very much. I will now call on the chairman of the Statutory Audit Committee, Chief Frank Ong, to present the committee's report on page 54 of the annual report and accounts.
This is the report of the Statutory Audit Committee for the year ended 31st December 2022 to the members of Fidelity Bank PLC. In compliance with section 404/7 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, we reviewed the scope and planning of the audit requirements and found them adequate. We reviewed the financial statements for the year ended 31st December 2020 and are satisfied with the explanations obtained. Review the external auditor's management report for the year ended 31st December 2022 and are satisfied that management is taking appropriate steps to address the issues raised. Ascertained that the bank has complied with provisions of Central Bank of Nigeria Circular BSD 1204 dated February 18, 2004 on disclosure of insider credits in the financial statements of banks. In addition, related party transactions and balances have been disclosed in the notes to the financial statements for the year ended 31st December 2020 in accordance with the prescribed CBN format. Ascertained that the accounting and reporting policies of the company for the year ended 31st December 2022 are in accordance with legal requirements and agreed ethical practices. The external auditors confirmed having received full cooperation from the company's management and that the scope of their work was not restricted in any way. Signed by myself, Chief Frank Omu, Chairman, Audit Committee. Other members, Dr. Christian Winier, Member Shareholder, Mr. Innocent Moore, Member Shareholder, Chief Nelson Weke, Member Director, Mrs. Ronke Bameke, Member Director. Thank you.
We will now take your questions and comments on the annual reports and audited accounts for the 2022 financial year. Please type your questions in the comments box or use the raised hand icon. To ensure orderliness, I, as chairman of the meeting, will invite shareholders to make their comments in turn. The media team will unmute shareholders who have been recognized by the chairman. Kindly state your name for the record when recognized. Please keep your comments brief and, if possible, avoid repetition so other shareholders can have the opportunity to ask questions. I'll give a few seconds for people to raise their hands or make comments. But I will start by recognizing Sir Sonny Wosu. Please unmute his mic. Sir Sonny Wosu, the floor is yours.
Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Good morning, and to the entire board, good morning.
Good morning, thank you.
Let me quickly start as you have directed. One important thing on the pictures is showing when you were still very young in Onitsha. I think your picture should be updated so that we know that you are getting old. Cannot be the same from when you are very young in Onitsha. However,
is Ezinwa's fault?
Yes. However, let me quickly go to the substance of the meeting. I want to thank you. Page 13 speaks clearly for the effort of the Amazon. Page 13, you can see how things had worked. And I want to thank you for listening to shareholders by declaring an interim dividend, which of course catapulted everything about Fidelity Bank. Thank you very much. I also want to say that everything went very well, except that the only thing that I think we missed the show is the virtual meeting. Maybe if you had given opportunity to shareholders to have an open meeting, the praises would have been too much for you to carry. The virtual meeting until the the network is stable in this country, we cannot have a very good virtual AGM, successful virtual AGM. So going forward, I think we need to have a rethink about this virtual AGM and open meeting. For example, we still have the big ones that are having an open meeting. You need to see the number of people that would have loved to praise you for the effort of Fidelity, who is proving to be a giant in the midst of giants. And I want to thank the MD, the Amazon that have done wonderfully well. Sometimes we think that having a woman at the helm of affairs will not be so good for our investment, but see what has happened to Fidelity. We are happy with her effort and everybody in Fidelity. Mr. Chairman, without mincing words, the whole thing is very straightforward. We are worried about what happened to our MD and the company secretary few months ago. I hope that has been discharged. I cannot see where a whole MD of a big bank like that and the secretary will just be thrown into jail just because of an error. So it's very important that we also ask them to please, we are sorry on behalf of shareholders for what they have gone through on our behalf. But we also need to be very careful about customers that can put us into trouble. It's very, very important. But if I may ask, it is also good for you to let your shareholders know of this customer that created this problem for us, so that we'll also be mindful of such a situation. So, Mr. Chairman, we are still waiting for you to tell us how far you have gone about this AMCON thing, which you promised about a year or 2 years ago. The AMCON is eating into our profitability, and the compulsory deposit with central bank. We don't know what the bankers committee is doing. We are asking that even if a 5% interest is paid on those monies, it will increase our profits. So we need to, and how far have you gone with the London bank? We need to know all this. The disclosure by the company secretary is perfect, but these are few things that we also need to know from the disclosures we have seen that we did not understand what happened. Mr. Chairman, I want to thank you, and finally, I want to ask you, how was the private placement of Fidelity shares? Has it added any value to the existing shares? Once again, I want to thank you. Please extend our appreciation to the management and entire board of the bank. We are looking forward for a greater reward from the bank. You have started it, you cannot go back. So thank you very much for the opportunity given to me to add a voice or two to this AGM. But take another consideration on this virtual AGM, because it's not really showing the kind of people that are supposed to be at AGM on Fidelity. You respect the smaller shareholders. This is the strength that you have. So please continue to respect them. Next year, let us have an open AGM whereby we can see ourselves and talk and praise the effort that you have put in. It's a giant stride. I quite agree with you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Sir Sonimusu. I will respond to some of your comments, and I'll have the MD respond on the private placement and what it has done for her. Yes, this is our first virtual meeting, and we will take all the feedback and we will reconsider for next year. We will take your comments to heart. You own the bank, and if it's important to you that we have either an open one or a hybrid, we'll look at it and we'll reconsider for the next AGM. On the issue of the embarrassments to the MD and the company secretary, I can assure you that probably fewer people were as upset about it as I was. It was, in all honesty, something that slipped through the cracks. It has since been, the court order has since been reversed, so nothing really happened, but it should never have gotten to that point where it was in the newspaper. It's an embarrassment for us, and as much as we know, we have put in procedures to make sure that such things don't happen in the future. On the issue of AMCON and the DCRR, the discretionary cash reserve ratio. Let me assure you that those are things that we're pursuing. It is better for us to pursue it through the Bank Directors Association of Nigeria, of which I'm chairman, so that Fidelity Bank is not isolated. It has to be something that's industry-wise. It's being pursued. We'll wait and see if there's any change in leadership in the relevant institutions, because we have a new government. But we're not going to relent. The regulatory costs are getting to be a huge amount of our revenues, our profits, and something has to be done to give comfort to the shareholders on that issue. Finally, you mentioned the private placement. As you know, one of the things stopping us from being as big as we can is sometimes we don't have enough capital. We have embarked on a number of capital raising initiatives, and they've mostly been led by Alhaji Issa Noah on the board. He has an ad hoc committee that looks into capital raising. So the first step was to do the private placement. It went very well, but your question was, what have we done with the money and how has it helped the bank? So speaking generally that we're going to be raising more capital going forward, I will have the MD just tell you briefly what she can do with capital and how she intends to use the capital we get in the future, with your permission. MD.
Hello? Yeah. Okay, yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for that question, and thank you for the opportunity for the approval to raise the capital. Like you well know, the bank is growing in leaps and bounds, and capital can only enhance our capacity to do that. And on the issues around technology, you're well aware that with the Naira redesign and all manner of challenges from the cybercrime, we need to defend our technology and also to enhance the capacity to accommodate the amount of business that's coming our way. So we'll continuously need to enhance those and to enhance our ability to meet our customer needs. Our customers are growing, customer base is growing, the size of our business is growing. I'm sure you can see that from what the returns. So we have to continuously raise capital. What we raised came very useful because we've had to enhance our technology to ensure that we defend our platforms from cybercrime that is ravaging all over the world, as well as to enhance the ability to handle the size of business that has grown with time. Thank you.
Thank you, MD. Sir Sanwos, I hope we've answered all your questions satisfactorily. I will now call on Chief Boniface Okezie to make a few comments and ask a few questions. Chief Okezie.
Hello, Chairman. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I cannot be physical with you there. That is the bad side of this virtual electronic. Nigeria is a joke. You know, those laws they signed shouldn't have been signed in the first place. Our meeting in the general hall to discuss our affair of the company is better. We see ourselves and interact. That gives us a better view of what I assess you to look at how you are. But unfortunately, we started it. We're not going back. But we have to look at it like someone pointed out. Come next year, we need to meet physically to do our meeting in a normal way. I want to congratulate the bank for the giant strive, for the giant leap they have made this year. In every parameter, the bank have excelled. Honestly, I want to say that the group MD have done very well, and her team of all the executive and management and the board, they have done very, very well. I want to commend him. I want to also commend her. I want to also commend the board on your leadership that today Fidelity Bank is no longer paying a kobo dividend of 15 kobo thereabout. Today we're talking about 50 kobo dividend, 15.something billion. That shows that, you have joined the bigger boys in the industry. I want to commend your tenacity. I want to commend your resilience to driving this bank. If you look at during the era of Naira design scarcity, I think if you go to all the branches of Fidelity Bank, you can never fall short in the ATM. All this Naira have been injected here for customers to have access. During that period, I was in the bank, I was in Aba, I was in the East, I was in Omaha, I was in all over the places. So Fidelity Bank never disappoint their customers. That's one thing going for them. And if every bank have Fidelity did, I think issue of scarcity wouldn't have been there, or people collapsing or dying. We did not witness that in the Fidelity Bank. We did not witness that in Fidelity Bank. So, Mr. Chairman, I want to commend you and what the staff, workforce, what they've done during that period. I think the bank will going to keep it up. If we have such emergency before, in the future, the bank have well now a position to tackle those challenges. Mr. Chairman, someone talked about ANCON. We pay 18.something billion, 18.276 billion for ANCON this year. Last year, we paid 15.348 billion, totally 33.something billion, Mr. Chairman, for ANCON alone, where they did not work, they are now reaping, where they did not sow. Mr. Chairman, how do we go about these things? Because for me, people will stay idle. Fortunately for us, you are the first pioneer MD of that organization. But since you left, things have gone haywire. Mr. Chairman, there's the issue for bankers committee to really address these things. CBN debit our source and take this money away. If those money are here today, we're not going to talk about 50 kobo dividend from Fidelity Bank. We would as well go home with 1 naira as dividend. But Mr. Chairman, that is our challenges. NDIC, you paid almost 5 billion this year, 5.something billion for NDIC. Last year, the same thing. If we put this money together, we're talking about 40-something billion, Mr. Chairman, or 50 billion thereabout, for institutions that are doing nothing. I think last time when we were there, that's the time they publish an account or whatever. But to date, ANCOM have never made profit. The only law posting loss. They don't even publish their financial as to know what they're doing. And taking people's investments. The banking code resolution, how they're solving it. They're not solving anything. If you're in trouble today, you have to go and raise market. You have to go and raise private placement to shut up your capital. But Mr. Chairman, I want to also commend the bank for the initiative, acquiring Union Bank UK. That means today we cannot depend on Standard Chartered Bank to do our bank in the UK, neither First Bank in UK. So we must have our own full-fledged branch. That was informed that decision to raise that capital placement. And I want to commend the management that also come to pass. And my question was that, how did you bring these people who came and invested private placement? I hope there are people who will not bring the headache to the board and management of this great company. So if the people who are coming on board will bring the supportive you needed, so I welcome them. And I welcome those also today the bank appointed, because the bank is growing leap and pound, to able to bring their weight of experience. Like Pamela, I want to commend her that she have to also look on ground and begin to contribute her voter at the border. This is only bank that diversifies, that does not discriminate wherever they come from, because every institution has its origin. But this bank is a bank that is true national in reflection appointment, either board member or the executive management. This bank is through a national bank. And I want also to be Mr. Chairman, yes, we believe in nationality. But if you go to a state where this bank originated from, Southeast, Mr. Chairman, I want to say that I'm not ethnic bigotry. No. We are underbanked in that region. If you go to Omaha, we cannot afford to have only one branch. During that banking crisis, it was hell. When going to Omaha, state capital, it was hell, indeed. We cannot afford to have only one branch in the state capital. In Aba, I don't know how many branches, other 2 or 3 there. So we need to increase our branches in the southeast and south-south, Mr. Chairman. And that's the people patronizing you. We need to increase our branch network in that region. If we don't do it, we're not doing a good service to the region I come from. Because I have to say this, Mr. Chairman, please, we need to look that direction. Mr. Chairman, I want to commend you for the giant tribe you have made this year. I know come this year, we're going to have $1 dividend. If not, because it's achievable, it's doable. Before Madame tenure expired, leave the board, she must start paying us $1 dividend. Because you have a capable hand, supportive from the EDs, management for entire workforce, and it's achievable. We will be able to do that. Mr. Chairman, if you look at donations in page, donations you made in page 49, that is awesome. The bank of almost 107,834,816 naira donation made alone for charitable organization for promotion, institution, education, health-wise, etc., etc. That's very commendable. But I'm also like Oliver Twist that will do more. Also take care of my people in the southeast and south-south. I must also agitate for that because I'm their mouthpiece. I have to speak for them. They cannot come here to ask for you. But we are here, we will ask for that, what to do to them. You are doing very well to give back to the society, clean environment in whichever you operate. That is awesome. That is very, very, very commendable. Mr. Chairman, I want to commend you for that. Mr. Chairman, in SME, I want to commend the bank to remain #1 in SME because that's where you receive all awards. In the SME, you have done very well. You have received every accolade from the world bodies. I want to commend the bank to remain resilient in that trajectory. So you are not being defaulted in giving to small-scale enterprise. I want to commend the bank. What you are promoting today, even the younger ones in automobile, you have been all everywhere visible. So the bank should continue doing that. And that's why average Igbo man is a business, astute businessman. So when you are promoting this, you are creating more wealth to the people, and they will also bring their money back to the banks. And that's only we can make profit. Chairman, I want to commend you on the total earning we increased this year. Is very, very commendable. Profit before tax is very commendable. Everything is on an upward trajectory. I want to commend you because making a profit before 53.7 billion is not easy to come by. When the people are now running away from banks, I don't know how Fidelity are still making it because of unpopular policy of CBN are driving customers away from the banks. People want to resort to old manual, keeping under their pillow or digging ground to put their money. Naira design was not a welcome development for Nigerians. But I want to thank you how to attracting these customers to also begin to put their money in Fidelity Bank. It's very, very awesome. I want to commend the management to hold it up because you have done very, very, very well. Mr. Chairman, having said that, I don't want to bore your time because you have done excellently well. The management have done very well. So this is not time to bore you with words, but that commendation, deposit base, Mr. Chairman, I want to also commend you on that. It's increased 27.4%. Is very, very commendable. Today we'll have about 2.6 trillion as against 2.0 trillion in 2021. That's the deposit base. It's very commendable, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank you for what you have been doing. Even on loan, giving out loans, advances also increased 27.69%. That means in last year we have about 1.7 trillion, but this year under review, 2.1 trillion given out. Mr. Chairman, is very commendable. That means you are giving out where others are shying away, giving out loans to resetters, to grow the resetters. Total asset grows 21.6% from 3.3 trillion in 2021 to 4.0 trillion in under review. Is very, very commendable. I want to say in all sectors you have done very well. I want to say that coming next year, we want to be together physically to celebrate the achievement of this great institution. And I pray that the good Lord will uphold you and give you good health because you are leading this bank in a good direction. And all the board members that are working with you and the management, all the EDs, I salute them. They are go-getters. I pray that this bank will go places in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, sir. Let me just reiterate that the two issues of concern to you, the issue of the nature and mode of the next AGM, we will look into it. So other speakers that have issues with that, we have noted the concerns about the virtual/physical. On the issue of regulatory fees, again, we have made it clear that we're working hard on it. It's not something for Fidelity to carry alone, but I think that it's an issue. We cannot have our second biggest expense item to be regulatory fees, and it will have to be looked into. But most of the other issues, let me just say that the board of directors, as active as they may be, are just supportive of management. Management does most of the work. Many of the issues you raised, like branch network and CSR, are better addressed by the MD. So I'll let the MD address those issues, and then please let's try and make it brief because I think we're running out of time. Thank you, MD.
Yeah. Thank you, Sir Okeze, for those brilliant questions and observations, and thank you also for the praises. Thank you. Okay, just to go specifically to two main issues that you raised, to tell you that you are speaking to the converted. On our own, we figured that we needed more footprints in the East and a couple of other areas in Nigeria, across the country. And we, at the beginning of the year, we got approvals for additional branches and some areas. And I'm happy to announce to you that Umahia is getting a second branch. As we speak, there are two things going on concurrently. That's the central bank approval and looking for a space for the branch. So, and it not just to Mahia, there are two more branches coming to Aba, and all over the country, we figured that we had gaps. We assessed it and reviewed it and got approval for those branches. All those applications are in central bank, and as soon as we get them, we'll deploy to sites. Thank you. That's for that one. And then on the issue of the CSR, thank you also very much for the commendations on that. But I also want to say that we have done a lot more since then. And we have the food initiative, which is ongoing. It was approved last month. It was launched last month. And it's a Fidelity Bank, Food Bank initiative. And it's for our CSR to all our communities where we serve. It is our own way of giving back to the community that are hosting us in various areas all across the country. And this initiative touches all the geographical zones in Nigeria, 6 geographical zones in Nigeria, and the East is one of them. I'm sure if you double check, they will tell you in your community that they received the first consignment last month in the churches, in the mosques, and the NGOs, registered NGOs. We send food to all the poor people, and it's more or less direct. We send them in packs. And it's a monthly thing. We'll continue to do that, and because we are very grateful for even the host community that has treated us with a lot of kindness. And in all the security issues that we had, Fidelity was the least affected. So he was saying something, and we needed to say thank you for that. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. I will now call on Mrs. Adetutu Siambola to make a few comments. Mrs. Siambola, are you on? Is she muted? While we wait for her, can I ask Alhaji Farouk Umar from Kano to make a few comments? How about Mr. Gbenga Idowu? Mr. Gbenga Idowu. Is Chief Joseph Okelana available for comments? Chief Joseph Okelana, you have the floor.
My respected chairman, good morning.
Nobody there yet. Sorry. I beg, I won't fix now.
You have to mute only the speaker. So who is speaking now? Is it Chief Joseph Okelana? Chief Joseph, please go ahead. We'll come back to Mrs. Shiambola.
Oh, good morning, my respected chairman. My name is Olatunde Okelana, Balogun Olugbo of Orile-Egbon. I am presently calling from Chicago. I have to wake up 3 a.m. to join the virtual meeting. My respected chairman, I want to tell you this morning that this meeting has a lot of advantages. Number one, it's very cost effective. Number two, I was able to join at my present location just because I want to contribute. My dear chairman, however, I want to share with all the sentiment expressed by all the last speaker in holding our AGM. But at the same time, if it's once in 2 years, I think it's okay because I am able to join from my present location in Chicago, USA. My chairman, I want to start by commending the Amazon of the banking industry, Nneka Onyeikpe. As far as this banking industry is concerned, and as far as the female executive in the all industry in Nigeria is concerned, I think she's the best. Please kindly give her a very good round of applause. I am saying that because of our leadership quality. And I want to say again that Mustafa Tikeobi, you are a team leader. Fidelity, I am very proud of you. I am proud of you because you always keep to your words. And let me not forget to say, during the cash crisis, the MD CEO, the Amazon of the banking is very, very accessible, and she was able to help. I want to say that she was able to help because the cash problem was so enormous that she has to come to our case in our zone. That gave her another round of applause. But MD, I want you to take note of one thing in Fidelity Bank. Please take note. The Japa syndrome is affecting Fidelity Bank seriously. I'm sorry I have to mention this because I was unable to discuss that with you in the last 2-3 days because you are too busy to attend to me, which is unlike you. The Japa syndrome of Fidelity staff is as a result of some of them that are agitated that for 4 years they were not being promoted. It's not because the welfare is not good. They love the bank, but because many of them stay on the same position for more than 4 years, they have to go outside the banking. Don't forget you spend our money to train these people. You spend our hard-earned money to train Fidelity bankers. And I want to take it back to memory lane. The human resources of Fidelity Bank, especially in the time of Tolu Peters, is one of the best human resources departments Nigeria Bank. Then, having said that, my respected MD and chairman, try and take a second look on the welfare of your staff. Let the welfare or the promotion just go across the board, not mindful where you come from, your geographical location, provided you are following what we call appraisal. Many of them got beautiful appraisal, but not promoted. That means they will be frustrated. Yes, another thing I want to mention to you, my dear sister Nneka, I don't know the politics behind Ogbomoso branch. You will recall you are the one that saved my neck by going to Ilorin. Though Ilorin is 30 minutes to my domain, to my house, but you save my neck, I go to Ilorin. I want you to see what you can do for Ogbomoso branch. And I want to tell you categorically, put it in bracket too. Make sure you place Ogbomoso branch under Ilorin as far as cash shop is concerned. Reason is this. For security reason, is the best you can do. For terms of cost, is best in terms of closeness, proximity to the capital. Please let me know the reason behind Ogbomoso branch. Reginald Ihejiahi, before he left, he got an approval, according to him. I don't doubt him. When my senior brother for 3 days, Nnamdi Okonkwo, who senior me for just 3 days on heart, he told me he got approval too for the Ogbomoso branch. Neka knows this zone very well. Having been the best, one of the best executive director for that directorate, Southwest. You know the terrain very well. From Ibadan to Ogbomoso can take you 2 hours because of bad road and because of a lot of issues. So why is it that Ogbomoso that is closer to Ilorin, and Ilorin has just some branches under the branch? What is the reason why we are not enjoying the quality banking in my domain? That's another one. I want you to go back to most of the mode of accounts you have in Fidelity Bank, vintage accounts. Can you please tell me more about vintage? Because, for example, sometimes some of you want to accuse me. Why do I have most of my money in another bank? It's simple. Other banks, as a senior citizen, having served the Nigerian government for 35 years as a military officer, I am exempted from all taxes on quotes. But if I have Fidelity account, Ineka gave me petrol money for 10,000 to buy fuel in Ogbomoso through my account, I will pay 15 naira. SMS, I will pay another one. It's only in Nigeria you discover that when you have 10,000 in your account, the money will keep to reducing. I want Fidelity Bank to do us a favor. Tell us more about vintage accounts and tell us those accounts that are for senior citizens, those that have served this country very, very loyally. Secondly, my dear chairman, Mr. Chairman, I want to tell you that in the last 10, 15 years, I've always told people on the board that my loyalty is to the institution. If I have withdrawn my loyalty during the time of Ihejiahi, during the time of Peter Obi, during the time of Nnamdi, will I be loyal to Nneka or Chike Obi, Mustafa? I cannot be loyal. But my loyalty is just for the institution. I want to take you back to memory lane. Those days when you have a get-together, you always invite some of the chieftain of the shareholders to attend the get-together. But these days, you don't bother minority shareholders again. Are we not part of you? Why are you trying to get further from us? We should be more closer to you. And that is the more reason anytime I want to chat with Nneka or Ezinwa or anybody for that matter in Fidelity, I want to discuss official matter. I don't have personal relationship with Ezinwa or Nneka or Chike, Mustafa Obi or any other person. It's Fidelity. You always keep to your ways. That is the reason why I love my bank. And I want to tell you my loyalty to Fidelity Bank is to the end of time. But I won't stop. I won't drop the microphone without appreciating the company secretariat, especially Ezinwa. She has very good lieutenants, people that are hardworking, working with her. You see, Ezinwa is a lady of not too many words, but she has lieutenants that always interact with you, like people like Austin Chima. Austin will always get back to you when he has any message from you from the management. I want to appreciate the company secretariat and the empowerment you are giving to them. Please don't relent on the empowerment of the company secretariat because they are the bridge between the shareholders, customers, the public, and the management before the board. Having said all this, my dear MD, I want you to restate and see all things you can continue to do to make the Fidelity staff to be the best in the banking industry. The reason is just simple. They are the only asset we have. Improve on their training. Make sure you have a lot of confidence in them and let them be trustworthy for you. because whatever you do today will always affect the bank in the future. So that's why I always appreciate anytime you do anything positive, the bottom line, it will be for shareholder to enjoy the more. Having said all this, my dear chairman, I want to appreciate you for giving me an opportunity.
Chief, sorry to interrupt you, but can you wrap up? We are short of time, sir.
Yeah, is that what I'm saying? I want to thank you for giving me an opportunity for the virtual meeting today, because if it's not virtual, I will not be able to speak with you. And I want to thank God that I'm able to see your face, my chairman and the MD and every other person. May God continue to strengthen Fidelity Bank, the staff, management, and all the customers. And I want to say on this note, may God continue to bless minority shareholders so that we will have our love at heart. God bless you and thank you for giving an opportunity. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. We should give you a round of applause, but for being in Chicago. Just to be clear, there is nothing stopping us from having both a physical meeting and a virtual meeting at the same time. We can have a hybrid. So your ability to join the next AGM will not be compromised. Whatever we choose, we're still going to have ability to have the virtual as well. As you can see, I'm surrounded by two very strong women, and we haven't had a woman speaker yet. We have looked for Mrs. Adetutu Siyambola. Is she available now? I would like her to be the final speaker.
I'm available, Mr. Chairman.
Please
Thank you for this opportunity. My name is, good morning, Mr. Chairman, other board members, the regulatory authorities, my fellow distinguished shareholders. My name is Barrister Adetutu Siyambola. I'm the president of Highly Favored Shareholders. Mr. Chairman, I have some observations, comments, questions, and suggestions on Fidelity Bank's PLC 2022 annual reports and accounts. With your kind permission, I will quickly run through them.
Please go ahead.
When I marry performance highlights on page 10 with results on page 42, item 1, I observe the following. Our gross earnings grew by 34.4% from 250.8 billion naira to 337.1 billion naira in the year under review. Profit before income tax grew by 112.9% from 25.2 billion naira to 53.7 billion naira in the year under review. Profit after income tax grew from 23.1 billion naira to 46.7 billion naira in the year under review. Earnings per share, basic and diluted, in Kobo grew from 80 Kobo to 161 Kobo in the year under review. I observe an excellent performance in the year under review because there is a remarkable growth in our turnover and profit. I want to seize this opportunity to give kudos to the board and management team for a job well done and implore them to do more. On page 20, changes on the board in chairman's statement. I observed that Pastor Kings Akuma retired from our board as the non-executive director on the 24th of November 2022 after completing his tenure. I want to seize this opportunity to thank him for his present and future endeavor. I also observed that the board appointed Mrs. Pamela Shodipo as executive director on the 3rd of February 2023. I want to seize this opportunity to welcome her to our board and wish her a fruitful tenure in office. On page 30 and 31, the group photograph of the board of directors, I observed that we have only 4 ladies in the board of 14 directors, which amounts to 28.6%. This is unacceptable on gender balancing. We have to improve on it going forward. On page 42, item 2, dividend. I observe that the board has proposed a final dividend of 40 Kobo per share in addition to the 10 Kobo paid as interim dividend, making a total dividend of 50 Kobo in the year under review, compared to 35 Kobo paid the previous year. This is commendable. Please keep it up. On page 43, substantial interest in shares. I observe that we have no major shareholder with the minority shareholders in our company in the year under review. I would like to know who is representing the interest of the minority shareholders in our board. On page 44 and 45, item 7C, directors and their interests. I observe that 11 directors out of 14 listed have our shares attached to their names directly or indirectly in the year under review. This is commendable. Please keep it up. When I married donations and charitable contributions on page 48 and 49, item 10, with corporate social responsibility on page 100 to 109, I observe that our CSR in the year under review is perfect because it covered health, education, social welfare, youth empowerment, and community development. This is commendable. Please keep it up. On page 71 and 72, attendance at board meetings and board committee meetings is good, but can be better. On page 218, note 15, other operating expenses. The only item I picked from there is stationary expenses. It went up from 460 million naira to 658 million naira in the year under review. Why? When other companies are going paperless. On page 288, share capital history. I observed that the last time we received bonus was year 2004, which is 19 years ago. I would like to suggest to the board and management team to consider the issuance of bonus when deliberating on 2023 annual reports and accounts. Lastly, I observe that we have used this annual report judiciously to advertise all our products and services. This is commendable. Please keep it up, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for your concise comments. I see you've done a lot of analysis. I will respond to two things, and I'll ask the MD to respond to particularly the issue of branches, Bomosho. We appointed two female directors in the last 18 months. We are very conscious. The minimum is 30%. We are 28.6%. We are not satisfied with the minimum, and we will continue to look for qualified, targeted representation on the board. And we will make sure that we get up to the statutory requirements in the near future. As for the issue of minority shareholders, we have 3 independent directors. Independent directors, I assure you, represent the interests of all the shareholders, including the minority. They don't represent any other shareholders. They represent everybody, and they pay attention to minority shareholders' interests. Having been on this board, I can tell you that our 3 independent directors are, can I say kindly, a bit of a pain in the neck sometimes in making sure that all shareholders are equally represented. So feel no concern about minority shareholders. The INEDs are doing a really good job on that sector. Before we move on, I'd like the MD to say a few final words on some of the issues raised.
Thank you very much for those observations, and thank you, Madam. I'll start with my dear friend, Mr. Kalano. Thank you for all the encouragement, because we spoke quite a bit during the Naira redesign. You are very correct, but I have good news for you. Obomosho is awaiting approval at Central Bank, and we already have a piece of land. So I think by this time next year, you would have commissioned the branch. So we're just awaiting Central Bank approval right now. We have the land already. So thank you very much for nudging us on all this while. Then on the second issue you raised about senior citizens account, we do have a senior citizens account called Fidelity Vintage account. We will probably need to look at it again and refresh it along the lines that you raised. It's not really a problem. We're very conscious of the fact that people who have served the community, served us meritoriously, and over the years, we should cut them some slack. So we'll look at it and refresh along those lines. Thank you. Then on the issue you also raised about not being invited to our parties, I sincerely apologize. That's probably a blind spot, but I thought that, I saw you the other time. But anyway, we'll look at it and ensure that, we would always invite you and all other directors to, shareholders, major shareholders, to our parties. Then over to Madam. Okay, we also raised the issue of the Jackpot syndrome. You are spot on. There's a Jackpot syndrome, both moving to other banks and moving outside the country. It's a problem that's more or less global. But however, speaking specifically to what you raised, which is promotion, I'm also happy to announce to you that 20% of our staff strength were promoted last weekend, which is 519. I'm sure the people that are raising issues about promotion with you, they should check the list again. I'm sure if you check back with them, I'm sure that they would have been promoted, because we took a quantum leap this time around to just bite the bullet and promote as many people as we can, just to reduce the noise, the complaints. So, it's a bit difficult because the terrain is very tough, the operating environment is very tough. But however, your staff are your most important assets, so we'll pay attention to that, and we'll continue to pay attention to that. Thank you for raising that. Okay, over to Madam. Madam, thank you very much for that well-articulated piece. I just want to speak directly to what you mentioned about the increase in cost of paper, stationery and all of that. Three things are playing out here. One is the devaluation. Two is inflation. Second, the third one is that we have a lot of increase in our transactions. Like you have seen, our customer numbers have grown and our transactions have grown significantly. However, the comfort is that we are digitizing. We're going through the digitization transformation right now, and digital transformation right now, and we're progressing. Our business, the growth in our use of paper and all of that is not in a direct proportion to our business growth, which means that we're making progress in automating our processes, especially all our repetitive processes in our mid-office, back office, and front office. So any process that is repetitive, we have automated. But I'm sure you know that it's a work in progress. We will continuously work on that to ensure that we reduce the growth and at least keep it steady. Since we have said we want to go paperless. Thank you very much. Those are the answers that I have for now. Thank you.
Okay. By the way, Mrs. Barrister Siyambola, you mentioned about board attendance. I think that's one of the few points in which KPMG appraisal actually gave us commendations. I think maybe we can discuss what you're reading, but I think the attendance at the board meetings was very, very strong. It was close to perfect, I believe. Maybe there was one missed attendance. So we'll take a look at it again and let's discuss it. But I think that's one of the few things he scored us well on, because he's a tough scorer. So we'll proceed. Having laid before you the audited financial statements and the reports of the directors, external auditors, audit committee, and independent board appraisal consultants for the financial year ended December 31, 2022, in accordance with Section 377 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020. We will now proceed to vote on this agenda item and other items for which your vote is required. In accordance with the provisions of Section 248(1)(a) of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, I, as chairman of this committee, hereby call for a poll in respect of all the items on the agenda except item 6 on disclosure of the remuneration paid to the managers of the company, for which no voting is required, and item 7 on election to the statutory audit committee, which will be by show of hands. Given that the agenda items for which your vote is required are ordinary resolutions, please note that a simple majority of votes, i.e. 50, it says 51%, but I think it's 50.1 of the votes cast by the members present in person and by proxy will be required to pass each resolution. Registrars, am I correct? 50.1. I am informed that some shareholders had earlier submitted proxy forms to the registrars, indicating how they wish their votes to be cast on the resolutions being presented for consideration. The proxy votes received on each resolution have already been collated by the registrars and will be displayed on the screen and added to the votes to be cast on each resolution during this 35th Annual General Meeting. The registrar shall conduct the voting and upon conclusion of voting on each resolution, display the result on the screen for all to see before proceeding to the next resolution. The representatives of the external auditors, Deloitte and Touche, shall act as scrutineers. I will now call on the registrars to explain the process for electronic voting, which will also be displayed on the screen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, have they displayed? Okay. Since we're using this USSD platform for the first time, I will request the media team to repeat the presentation for the benefit of all. Can you play it, please, the first time, so I can... I'm jumping ahead. It's not ready. Okay.
Step 1. Dial *8011 *55 hash.
Thank you very much.
Step 2. Press 0 to verify phone number.
Who is explaining this resolution? Or it doesn't need explanation?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. For the purpose of voting on each of the resolutions, it's going to be through the use of a USSD platform, and this will be displayed on the screen. We are going to have 120 seconds for the purpose of voting on each of the resolutions. You will have to cast your votes when the poll is open. And should you have any difficulties in connecting, please try again. This will equally be displayed once again on the screen. The first thing a shareholder joining through online will do is to dial *8011 *55 hash. The next step, we have to enter 0 to verify the phone number which they are using. The next step is to press 1 for them to vote on each of the resolutions. Then you press 1 again to indicate whether you are using the entire unit to vote or not. Then if you are voting for any resolution, you press 1 on your phone. If you are voting against, please press 2. That's the procedure, sir. Thank you.
Is this clear? Okay. Are you going to play a video to explain this? So play the video.
If you wish to vote on any red shareholders, kindly watch and listen attentively to the instructions for voting on the resolution to be considered at this annual general meeting. Please note, voting will be conducted via a USSD platform. Please dial the USSD code that will be displayed on the screen to access the voting platform and follow the prompts on your phone if you wish to vote on any resolution. The voting platform will remain open for 90 seconds for each resolution. Please cast your vote once the poll opens. If you encounter network connectivity issues, please try again. However, please note that votes will be submitted only once per shareholding account within the 90 seconds period. Kindly follow these steps to vote on the resolution to be considered at this meeting. Step 1. Dial *8011 *55 hash. Step 2. Press 0 to verify phone number. Step 3. Press 1 to vote on this resolution. Step 4. Press 1 to indicate voting with all units. Step 5. Press 1 to vote for or 2 to vote against the resolution. Step 6. Select Send to exit. Please note that the guidelines will continue to be displayed on the screen for your convenience.
That require your vote. I hereby propose the resolution for shareholders. This is the first one. To receive the audited financial statements and reports of the directors, external auditors, audit committee, and independent board appraisal consultants for the financial year ended December 31, 2021, which were earlier laid before the members pursuant to Section 377 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020. Will a shareholder please second the resolution? How is that done? How? Who will second?
I will second, Mr. Chairman.
I second the motion.
My name is Dr. Farouk Umar. Okay. I second the motion.
Thank you very much, Mr. Farouk Umar. I will now put the resolution to the meeting by calling you to vote on the resolution. Please note, it says that we have 120 seconds. Is it 90 or 120? 90 or 120? Well, you have 120 seconds to vote a resolution. So,
thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. The voting is about to open. Please open the poll.
What did they use?
We can't see it.
As earlier mentioned, please press *8011 *55# on your phone to vote. If you are voting for any resolution, please press 1. If you are voting against any resolution, please press 2. Voting has commenced. We have 65 seconds left.
I hope this works. Can you see the Is anybody
17 seconds.
Can you see it? I hope we don't get into trouble.
5. Time up. At the end of voting on this resolution, which is to receive the audited account of the directors, auditors, and audit committee report for 2022 of Fidelity Bank PLC, we have 150 shareholders voting for through online and by proxy, with the total shares of 10,97,806,759 units, 100%, no dissenting voice. Thank you.
I hereby declare the resolution carried. The next resolution is the approval of the proposed dividends. In this regard, the directors are pleased to recommend a final dividend of...
Hello. How are you? How are you?
Can you mute? The directors are pleased to recommend a final dividend of 40 kobo per share, per ordinary share, for the 2022 financial year for the approval of shareholders. I hereby propose the resolution to approve payment of a dividend of 40 kobo per ordinary share for the financial year ended December 31, 2022. Will the shareholder please second this resolution?
My respected chairman, I, Shareholder Okelana, second that motion, and I trust the registrar. They will pay us today. Thank you.
Thank you
for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Registrar.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. The next resolution that requires voting is the declaration of final dividend of 40 kobo per shares. Like I had earlier mentioned, if you are voting for that resolution, please press star 8011 star 55 hash on your phone. If you are voting against, please press 2. Please open the poll. Five seconds left. Forty-nine seconds. 24 seconds. Time up. Voting has closed. At the end of the voting on this resolution, which is the declaration of a final dividend of 40 kobo per shares, we have 174 shareholders voting through proxies and through online voting, with the total shares of 10,384,721,268 units. No against. Thank you.
I hereby declare this resolution carried. The next item is the election of Mrs. Pamela Shodipo to the Board of Directors. I hereby propose to approve the election of Mrs. Pamela Shodipo as Executive Director. Will a shareholder please second this resolution?
I so do, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much.
Adio A. Alexis Dene.
Registrar.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. The next resolution, as announced, is the election of Mrs. Pamela Shodipo as an Executive Director of Fidelity Bank PSC. If you are for that resolution, please press 1 by dialing star 8011 star 55 hash. If you are against the resolution, please press 2 on your phone after dialing star 8011 star 55 hash. Please open the poll. Shareholders can now vote. Five seconds remaining, 4 seconds, 3 seconds, time up. At the end of the voting on this resolution, which is the election of Mrs. Pamela Shodipo as Executive Director, we have 168 shareholders voting for through proxy and online, with the total shares of 10,358,216,236, while 2 shareholders voted against, having a total shares of 18,498,802 units. Thank you.
I hereby declare resolution carried. The next item is the re-election of the non-executive directors who are due to retire by rotation at this AGM. In accordance with Section 285 of CAMA 2020 and Article 95(1)A of the Articles of Association of the company, the directors due to retire by rotation at this AGM are Mrs. Amaka Onwugalo and Chief Nelson Weke. And being eligible, they have offered themselves for re-election. I can confirm that a formal evaluation was conducted to assess the performance of the directors due to retire by rotation, and that the board recommends their re-election based on their impressive contributions to the growth of the bank. Please be informed that separate resolutions will be proposed for the re-election of each director. A. Re-election of Mrs. Amaka Onwugalo. I hereby propose the following resolution for shareholders: to approve the re-election of Mrs. Amaka Onwugalo as a non-executive director. Will a shareholder please second this resolution? Who seconds this resolution, please?
Boniface Okezie, second the motion.
Thank you very much, sir. Registrar.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. For the purpose of voting on this resolution, please dial *8011 *55# on your phone. And if you are voting for the resolution, please press 1. If you are voting against, please press 2. Thank you. Please open the vote. Voting has commenced. 6 seconds left. 4 seconds. 3 seconds. Poll closed. At the end of the voting on this resolution, which is the re-election of Mrs. Amaka Uvalu as a non-executive director of Fidelity Bank PSC, we have 161 shareholders voting through proxy and online voting, with the total shares of 10,100,218,031 units, representing 97.26% of the total vote cast, while we have 9 shareholders voting against, with the total shares of 284,785,937 units. Thank you.
I hereby declare the resolution carried. Next resolution, to approve the re-election of Chief Nelson Mweke as a non-executive director. Will a shareholder please second this resolution?
I, Sir Olatunde Okelana, rise to second the motion, sir.
Thank you very much. Did you get it? Registrar, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. The voting on this resolution is about to commence. Please open the poll. If you are voting in favor of the resolution, please press 1. If you are voting against, please press 2. Three seconds left, 51, 49 seconds, 46 seconds left. By 3 seconds left, 32 seconds, 27 seconds, 26, 25 left. Seconds, 7 seconds left. Seconds. Time up. At the end of the voting on this resolution, we have 165 shareholders voting through proxy and online, with the total shares of 10,100,086,444 units, representing 97.26% of the total vote cast, while we have 9 shareholders voting through online and by proxy, with the total shares of 284,784,937 units, representing 2.74%. Thank you.
Thank you, Registrar. I hereby declare the resolution carried. In accordance with Section 401(2) of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, CAMA 2020, the external auditors, Deloitte and Touche, have indicated their willingness to continue in office as the bank's external auditors. The next item is to authorize the directors to fix the remuneration of the external auditors. So I hereby propose the following resolution to authorize the directors to fix the remuneration of the external auditors for the 2023 financial year. Will a shareholder kindly second this motion? Sasoni Wosu, second. Registrar.
Thank you very much, sir. The next resolution is the authorization of director to fix the auditor's remuneration. If you are voting for this resolution, please press 1. If you are voting against, like I earlier mentioned, please press 2. Please open the poll. Voting has commenced. Two seconds left, 31 seconds, 29 seconds. Seconds, 13 seconds, 7 seconds left, 6 seconds. Time up. Please display the result. At the end of the voting on this resolution, which is to authorize the director to fix the auditor's remuneration for 2023, we have 169 shareholders voting through proxy and online voting, with the total shares of 10,366,350,968 units, representing 99.82% of the total vote cast. While we have 2 shareholders voting against, having a total shares of 18,444,262 units. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I hereby declare the resolution carried. The next item is a disclosure item. There's no more voting required, registrar. Is that correct? Yes. The next item is to disclose the remuneration of the managers of the company. In accordance with Section 238 and Section 257 of the CAMA 2020, the ordinary business for annual general meeting should include an item on disclosure of the remuneration of the managers of the company. Based on the foregoing, shareholders are hereby informed that the remuneration of the managers of the company is disclosed in Note 40 of the annual reports. Please note that no voting is required on this agenda item. We will now proceed to the next item. Next and final, the election of the members of the Statutory Audit Committee. Please note that the Statutory Audit Committee has been established in compliance with Section 404, subsections 2 and 3 of CAMA 2020. The committee is made up of 3 representatives of the shareholders and 2 members of the Board of Directors. In compliance with the provisions of Section 404.3 of CAMA 2020, the board's representatives on the Statutory Audit Committee are Chief Nelson Weke and Mrs. Ronke Bameke. As stipulated in the notice of the meeting, any shareholder may nominate another shareholder for election to the Statutory Audit Committee by giving notice in writing of such nomination to the Company Secretary at least 21 days before the annual general meeting. The CBN in its Code of Corporate Governance for banks and discount houses stipulates that members of the Statutory Audit Committee should be knowledgeable in internal control processes, accounting, and financial matters. Over 40 nominations were received for election of shareholders' representatives to the Statutory Audit Committee. However, most of the nominees either withdrew or could not be processed for various reasons, including late submission, documentation gaps, and non-membership of the company by the nominee or nominator, leaving only 3 valid nominations. The 3 valid nominees are 1. Chief Frank Ong, Dr. Christian Winia, and Mr. Innocent Moore. Please note that Section 2493 of the CAMA 2020 provides that there should be no right to demand a poll on the election of the Statutory Audit Committee. Given that 3 valid nominations were received for 3 slots for shareholders on the Statutory Audit Committee, there is no need for an election. Accordingly, Chief Frank Ong, Dr. Christian Winia, and Mr. Innocent Moore shall join the board's representatives, Chief Nelson Mweke and Mrs. Ronke Bameke, to constitute the Statutory Audit Committee for 2023 financial year. Dear esteemed shareholders, having concluded the business for which this annual general meeting was convened, I now respectfully declare the 35th annual general meeting closed, and thank you for your attendance and participation. I would like to request finally that Alhaji Kabir Tambari to give us a closing prayer before we take the national anthem. Alhaji. Alhaji.
Are you hearing me?
Yes, please go ahead, sir.
To help this bank, to help our chairman, to help our MD, to help our shareholders, the dividend that we are going to receive today, I pray God Almighty to help us on it, also to help our MD to bring more dividend for us next year to pay us one naira, including interim dividend. The new administration that we took over in the next 6 days, I pray Almighty to help it, also this country. The insecurity we are facing in this country, especially we in the north, I pray God Almighty to intervene on it, also to become a history. Our shares that are moving from 6 naira to 5 naira, I pray God Almighty to intervene on it so that the shares will go to 10 naira soonest. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahmanir Rahim, Maliki Yawmiddin, Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in, Ihdinas siratal mustaqim, siratal ladzina an'amta alaihim, ghayril maghlubi alaihim waladdallin. Amin. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Please remain standing for the national anthem.